What's up? Welcome back to Overtime Operators, the show where we talk about making money in sports. This week, we got some betting and we got some benchmarking for player props, a little bit of heat check. I'm John at JohnJ3X on all the socials. I got Daps at Daps Sports on all the socials, and Casey, the Niners fan man, or Niners_fan man. You got to look him up. You just got to figure it out. You got to figure it out with Casey. He doesn't like to be easy to find. He likes to be a little bit hard. You got to want him a little bit. If you haven't been on the show before, we bet. We have a $10 bet, a $20 bet, 30, 40, and 50. In my $10 spot, I bet the Vikings as 3-point favorites over the Bears. The Vikings lost, so that was just an all-around bad day for me as a Vikings fan. I also liked the Heat on the money line. The Heat ended up getting a Heat over Knicks on the money line. It was like a plus 124 at the end of it. Didn't matter. The Knicks beat the Heat. I don't really know what to do with the Heat. Miami Heat, really a bummer. In my $30 spot, I had a parlay. So I had the Dolphins beating the Jets and the Chiefs beating the Raiders straight up, no spread. But then I also had both of those games. So the Dolphins game going over 29.5 points and the Chiefs Raiders game going over 28.5 points. It was a 4-leg parlay. I hit all 4 legs in the $30 spot. So 2 losses in the $10 and $20 spot. And then I won in the $30 spot. In my $40 spot, I had Tyreek Hill over 90.5 receiving yards. Hit that one. He had like 100 something. And then in my $50 spot, Zay Flowers bailed me out. I had the Ravens 3.5-point favorites over, who did they even play? Who did the Ravens even play last week? The Bengals, right? No, not the Bengals.
Chargers?
Yeah, Ravens played the Chargers. Ravens were 3.5-point favorites. They shouldn't have won. Justin Tucker really blew the game for us. Like missed a field goal that is very makeable for him. I thought we were going to end up losing that bet. And then Zay Flowers just like, I'll just house one in the last play of the game. And Ravens ended up winning 2010. It was going to be a 3-point game, ended up being a 7-point game. Zay Flowers knew I had them on the spread. He had to take care of me. Appreciate it, Zay. Throwing the bouquet after the touchdown. So I think I ended up right side up about 70. No, I ended up right side up about $30 on the week, or $70 on the week, or roughly 50%. That was my week. Casey, let's talk about what happened to you.
Hit me with it.
So you had Bucks Colts. You had Bucks with 2.5-point favorites. You lost that bet. The Bucks lost to the Colts. That was your $10 slot.
They were 2.5-point dogs.
Sorry, 2.5-point dogs. Doesn't matter. They lost by 7. So you lost it either way. But yes, you're right. 2.5. It says plus 2.5 right here.
Lost it by a little less in my defense. A little bit less. It's a 5-point swing.
Right. You lost it, and then Chiefs Raiders. You didn't care about the 8.5 points. You just took the Chiefs on the spread minus 8.5. They won by more than 8.5. Same thing with the Dolphins. You didn't. The big spread didn't scare you. Dolphins Jets in your $30 spot. You took the Dolphins with a 10-point spread. I think the best point during the week, it was like 9.5, but 9.5, 10. You didn't care either way. You took the Dolphins, and yep, they both raced the Jets. And then Saints Falcons. You had a 41.5 point. You had the under on 41.5 points. The under did hit. Jags Texans. 48.5 points seemed like a smash, honestly. Seems like both those teams can score points. You had the over on 48.5. That one didn't hit. Lost that one. So you lost your $10 bet and your $50 bet. You ended up $30 right side up, or roughly 20%. So, hey, making money. If your $50 bet doesn't hit, you're just looking to be, hey, did I end up right side up for the week? Great. I'm happy.
Hey, no shame. If that were a matchup again this week, I'd run it back and bet the over again.
All right. Daps, though, had himself the best week out of all of us. So in the $10 spot, he lost his $10 bet. So Patriots versus Giants, you had a -3. You liked the Pats with -3. That did not hit. Ravens versus Chargers, you liked the Ravens. 3.5-point favorites. Same thing happened. You got bailed out by Zay Flowers just like I did. But you only had it in the $20. I really got bailed out by him. It was in my $50 slot. And then Bills Eagles, 3-point favorites. Bills, it was a push. They actually did just lose by 3. So that's a push, right? I think you just even money with the house on that. Rams versus Cardinals, you liked the over on 44.5 points. That one hit. Steelers Bengals, you like the Steelers as 1-point favorites. now, I mean, in hindsight, that seems like the smash bet of the week. That one also hit. You ended up right side up $100 on your 150 you bet, so roughly 66%. We count all of the spread bets as even money. I know I recap that every week, but something important. Not all spread bets are even money, but yeah, either way, right side up. Daps, great week. We'll start with you, Casey, in the $10 spot. What you got?
Sure. Yeah, this week, you know me. I like to have a little bit of a theme going on. Last week, I had 3 spread bets, and I bet 1 over, 1 under. I decided to run it back this week, hopefully with a little bit better results. So last week, I started out with 3 spread bets at 3 low bets. I've switched that now, completely on its head. I think I did better in those last week. So now I'm reserving those for my top 3 bets. I'm going to start out with the over and under bets. First one up is an over that I think should hit. We all know that I missed it on the last week, but that's okay. This week, I see the Cards at Steelers as a potential over that should hit. The line is at 41 right now. We all know that Matt Canada is fired. He is gone. He is no longer a nuisance for Pittsburgh. They came out and had at least an explosion relative to the rest of their season on offense last week. So things are trending up.
Hold on. Can I also just add this because everybody needs to hear this? The Steelers, not only, you just said that they had an explosion in comparison to what they've been doing. They had over 400 yards, and that is the first time the Steelers have had over 400 yards. And I think it's either 56 or 58 straight games. So it's more than that, Casey.
Yeah. Matt Canada has 0 400-yard games.
Yeah, like that. When that happens, it's all too convenient, and you go, "Oh, how much is it really the offensive coordinator's fault?" In this case, a lot.
Much. Yeah. South Park says blame Canada, right?
Yeah. Kenny Pickett's out here looking like Tom Brady without Matt Canada, man. It turns out he's actually pretty good.
I only threw in the relative thing because there are other teams that do that on a much more regular basis. But yeah, Steelers, that's not been their identity. They're coming out, they're playing different style of football. My guess is that the sports books haven't really projected that to remain true yet. It's not like we've seen it happen 3-4 times in a row and they know they can rely on it. So the line, I think, it gets a little bit of a break here. And on the other side of the ball, it's the same sort of story. We got the Cardinals, who most of the year they've been playing without Kyler Murray. He's come back, and he's doing Kyler things out there. And last week, he actually finally got a connection going with Hollywood Brown, which didn't happen in his first outing. So I'm banking on them to put up some offense as well. I think these two teams, they're going to hit the over on 41. Quick math says that means both teams need about 20 points. I mean, if they can't scrounge together 3 touchdowns apiece, then I don't see any reason why. Like, somebody else needs to be fired probably at that point. All the problems should be fixed here. These teams should be trending upwards for the rest of the year. Yeah, I think 41 is a pretty fair line, and I'll bet the over any day of the week on that one.
I like it. I like that one as well.
DraftKings, by the way, 110 odds, minus 110 odds.
Minus 110 on that. So, yeah, I like it. Matt Canada seems to be just such an obvious fall guy, especially after that week they had last week. Daps, what do you got in the $10 spot?
My $10 spot, I got the Steelers Cardinals under 41. So, even with this new,
you went the other way with it.
Yeah,
even with this, what Casey has, huh? He didn't. So before he heard yours, Casey, that was not his $10 bet. He's like, no, I just want to bet against Casey. This will be fun.
Yeah, very, very curious that we both put this in our $10 on the opposite. But actually, as we talked it through, I thought, wow, 400 yards. Maybe I'll do that again. The Steelers, they don't play that way, though. They've never played that way, even with Roth. The only time, Roethlisberger, Antonio Brown, Le'Veon Bell, those killer bees, that was obviously insane. But besides those couple years, they've never been that team who just airmails the ball the whole time. They've always been defense first, have a stable quarterback, run the ball. They don't try to put points on the board. Can they overhit? Absolutely. Kyler looked really bad last week. I imagine it's going to be cold in Pittsburgh. I don't think he plays well in the cold. We'll see what happens. I don't know how real the Steelers are yet. They win these weird grind out games. It's impressive to a degree, but can you really beat any of the top 5, top 10 teams like that? I don't think so. I don't think you can beat the Ravens like that. I don't think you can beat the Lions like that. I don't think you can beat the Chiefs or the Eagles or the Niners or the Cowboys. I just don't think you can beat those teams with their style of football. So I'm going under this week only because it's getting cold. Kenny Pickett and Kyler are both like just not impressive.
Yeah. They I call the Steelers. It's like they get those Tim Tebow style wins where you watch it and you're like, I don't know, it doesn't look good. He doesn't look like he's good, but somehow he's winning games. Those are the games the Steelers win. Like I don't like it. I don't like watching it at all. Somehow they get the win though. Okay, that's
like we put them both in our $10 spots. So
yeah, neither of you very confident, but you both.
I do agree with your analysis too, Jabs. I think it rides on Kyler. I think he'd have to be the engine for the entire game to hit the over because the Cardinals need to put pressure on the Steelers to repeat what they did on offense. I think otherwise, if they can just dominate on defense, then they don't need to be that aggressive. So
right. Okay, let's move to the $20 spot. Daps, you'll go first this round.
$20 spot. I got another under, and I analyzed this the same way we did last week, John, and you brought this up. Chiefs Packers under 42.5. I was too afraid to bet it last week, but a Chiefs game with an over under 42.5 to me is nuts. The lowest you usually see a Chiefs over under set at is like 46, 47. So for 42.5, I think Vegas just really does not like Mahomes' receivers right now and thinks that because of the drops and because of the lack of offensive production that they can win the game, just not in the way that your traditional Chiefs win by scoring 30, 40 points. Jordan Love has had some moments this year where you're like, wow, is he for real? And then goes on a 5 or 6 game losing streak. So very impressive play last week against the Lions. Very impressive win. But again, now we're getting into that area of time where weather is going to start to affect games. This is going to be the first stretch where like it's really cold, or it's the first cold game you're playing, depending on what stadium you play in. If you're in LA or you're in Kansas City or you're in Green Bay. Now listen, Green Bay and Mahomes, they play in the cold consistently, so they're used to it. But wind is a factor. Missed field goals, right? That shaves points off. I'm going under Chiefs Packers.
You like the under at 42.5. I was going to say Lambeau Field in that deep north, the deep north where it's real cold. Like you get the real cold there. And so, yeah, I mean, that oftentimes sets up kind of ground and pound, ugly run games. You never know. It could be a nice day for sure, but that's,
don't say that, John.
I don't mind it. I don't mind the 42.5. No, it's going to be an awful snowy grind out there. It's going to be like 16-10. So for under on Chiefs Packers, Casey, $20 spot. You got the over on Chiefs Packers?
My $20 bet this week is Chiefs Packers over. No, I'm just totally kidding. No. After that, I thought for a second we might be lined up again, but I'm actually going to an under here now. Again, one over, one under, then spread bets. I like looking at the slate of games in that way, trying to find one of each of those things first. And if I don't, then I don't force anything. But I like the exercise. The under that I expect to hit this week is a game that's set at a line of 34 points, so already really low, right? Yeah. Take some balls.
You're betting under on 34 points, but wait till you hear the matchup.
Yeah, it's in this matchup. I think that both teams think that their best chance of winning the game is for that under to hit. I don't think either team likes to get in shootouts by any means. And that matchup is the Falcons at the Jets. The Falcons, the way they win ball games is mostly ground and pound. A lot of clock runs off in those kinds of game scripts, especially if they get a lead. They don't need to do anything aggressive. Meanwhile, the Jets, I mean, we know who the Jets are right now, right? Yeah. They have a great defense, a playoff defense, and just bumbling all over the place on offense. So when this line is set at 34 points, I want the sports books to tell me who's scoring those points. How do you see this happening? I know it's a low line, but hey, I'm gonna risk it this time and say that they get under 34. Falcons at Jets. I just, good on them if they can hit the over, but I don't see it happen.
This feels like a classic, like 17-11 game,
Yeah.
17-12 game.
10-6.
10 stu I mean, it could be.
Like,
I was going through the
Nobody
score.
has more 10-6s than the freaking Jets over the last 2 years. Like, they're the king of that. Like, let's both stay in single digits. Them and the Giants.
When I did the math in my head, if I was predicting the score, I was thinking probably the Falcons take it. Maybe they score 21. But then I was like, I don't think the Jets can score more than 10 points. So I think this hits in the under by at least 3. So that's me. Falcons at Jets, bend the under. It's minus 112 on DraftKings as well.
All right, minus 112 on that one. So we are going to move to the $30 round where the money starts getting real. We start getting into the mid-range. The bets we got to be a little confident in. We know if we lose these ones, might ruin our week. Casey, you're going first this round. What you got?
All right, I'm up first. We're staying in the NFL here. I don't know if DAPT is all NFL as well this week. I'm going to spread bets now. Spread bets for the remainder of my bets here. First one, Panthers at Bucks. The Bucks are 5.5-point dogs. They burned me last week. Or 5.5-point favorites. Excuse me, 5.5-point favorites. They burned me last week as dogs. But this week, much softer opponent. The Panthers. Honestly, I think the process still holds up from what I said about them last week. I think that they can still emerge. They're still only a game behind in their division. They can still emerge easily as the champions in that division and go on to the playoffs. They just got to start playing serious football and winning the games they're supposed to win. Being 5.5-point favorites, this is definitely a game they're supposed to win. I don't anticipate that the Panthers can keep up with them at all. It's such a new look team with new management too. I don't even consider the interdivision matchup really like keeping it close here, because who on the Panthers, like that doesn't pass the mental test there. They haven't built up a rivalry with their current brass really. So yeah, 5.5 points. That's a touchdown easy in my mind. And the Bucs have a lot of people who can put up touchdowns. Mike Evans, and Chris Godwin alone. Those guys are better scorers than anybody on the Panthers, in my opinion. So yeah, Bryce Young has his work cut out for him.
Yeah, did you see Bryce Young's parents were at the game last week? Not even wearing Panther stuff. They're wearing Bama stuff. They're like, nah, screw the Panthers. Yeah, I don't even think they're bought into it. So Panthers pretty good bet against in any given week. Take a hard look at the Panthers game in any given week and ask yourself, they suck pretty bad. Do you think this team could beat them by that much points? So I like it. All right, Daps, what you got in the $30 spot?
My $30 spot. I'm sorry, Casey. I had to do it to you. The
Panthers?
Falcons Jets over?
No. The Eagles getting 3 points at home is insane to me.
I looked at that as well.
Absolutely insane. And also, by the way, I've bet against the Eagles the past 2 weeks, and I hate doing this. I hate switching up the bet because I don't think things just keep happening again and again and again. But the Eagles, maybe this is a bad bet by me. But listen, the Eagles are home. They're playing the Niners. The Niners have had some bad losses this year. The Eagles have a bad loss to the Jets, by the way. Mm-hmm. I will say something right now that is almost against the bet that I put in. I don't understand some of the Eagles wins this year are really, really unimpressive. Yeah. They're ugly. Yeah. Now, let me also say last week, Jalen Hurts at least proved to me, and I've been a Jalen Hurts fan, that the amount of drives he just came back, he was calm, he was cool, he was collected, put the ball where it needed to be, put them in a position to win. Now, granted, he didn't do a great job, but then his kicker just like rifles this 59-yard missile in the rain, which was absurd. Maybe the greatest kick I've ever seen to win a game. But, Jalen Hurts didn't really put him in position to kick a field goal, like to win the game, right? The kicker had to come out and, save the day. Now, go into overtime, though, Jalen Hurts marches down the field, right? And he wins the game. And super, super impressive. Now, the Eagles beat the Cowboys. The Cowboys should have won that game. Eagles beat the Chiefs. MVS drops that touchdown. Chiefs were winning the whole game up until 6 minutes left, right? Mm-hmm. So Eagles game, Eagles Chiefs, Eagles Cowboys, and then there was one more win that the Eagles had, and I'm just going to pull it up real quick. It was the Eagles beat the Bills. Right, the Bills. That's the other win. Listen, it was impressive that they won the game, but Gabe Davis runs the wrong route in overtime, right? Like everything seems to be going the Eagles' way in a lot of these games. Like in the Cowboys game, McCarthy, typical McCarthy fashion, makes these bonehead calls, right? And doesn't put a touchdown in the end zone from like the 5-yard line. So again, the Eagles are getting wins and they deserve credit. They're 9-1 or 10-1. They did it last year. They go to the Super Bowl. They lose to the Chiefs, but you got to win when it counts in the playoffs for sure. And listen, the Niners could roll the Eagles, and I wouldn't be surprised.
The Niners the way that I would put it is the Niners have 3 losses that were ugly. Every other game, the ones they've won, we're all like, these guys are buttoned up. Like they are clean. They are tight. When they're clicking, they're so good. Whereas like the Eagles have some kind of scrappy, ugly wins. So all the stuff you're saying is true, but I think kind of your crux of it and what you're getting to is like getting 3.5 points at home is insane though. How can I pass up on it?
Yeah. It's a bet. Like you have to take 3 points at home, right? Yeah. With especially with the best team in the league.
Right.
And Hassan Reddick said some stuff publicly too, like, I heard a lot of crying from the Niners last year, yada, 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 right? Like, a lot of what ifs. What if Brock Purdy didn't get injured? What if we had a quarterback, this and that? But when it comes down to it, the Eagles got the win, and now you get your chance for redemption as a Niner fan, right? So, that's the game of the week. I'll tell you that. Yeah. There's no cooler game to watch than that game this week.
Oh yeah.
In my personal opinion, before we get off this matchup, I will say I was absolutely floored when I saw how this opened up. Did you say you got 3.5 points for the Eagles?
3.5. Yeah. So
no, just 3. Not just a half. 3. Just 3. Yeah. But still, like, if this spread right now is Eagles -3, none of us would be like, oh wow, I can't believe that. You'd think that's normal, and that's a 6-point difference. Like, think about that. That's a 6. And then
at this point in the season, that's huge. Yeah.
But also, change a spread by 6 points on any other bet of the week, and it looks way different.
Yeah,
like way different, right? So
the only things I want to call out here, because that's what I saw too, was the 3-point spread where it opened up. I've just been hearing all year, right? Like there's one team atop the NFC, right? Like there's been no arguments really, right? Since the Niners hit that 3-game skid. And I just find it really interesting. As soon as this opens up, the sports books, the people who are most invested in this, it opens up with 3 points for the Eagles at home. I mean, typically you give 3 points to the visiting team usually. So do they really think the Niners are 6 points favored if this was on neutral ground, basically? Like, this makes no sense to me. It doesn't match any of the narratives that anybody has said all year. I was expecting to slam the Niners plus however many points they were going to get in this matchup. And as soon as I saw that, I thought, hey, something's wrong here. This is crazy. Crap. It's absolute crap. And I think that you should be betting the Eagles like Daps is if you're a believer at all that they're the best team. Otherwise, if you're scared of this matchup, then you think the Niners are the best team in the NFC. I hate to break it to you. Like, that's the only way that this happens. A 10-1 team they're underdogs at home. It makes no sense at all. I think it rings.
It just screams. It screams trap from Vegas. It screams trap.
Do you remember a couple of weeks ago when the Chiefs were playing the Eagles and we looked at the over-under and it was at like 42.5 and we're like, what? That seems 42.5 on that game seems like smash over. And then the under hit. And Daps at the time you said, I don't like it. Smells fishy. Vegas knows something. Vegas got the scripts early. They know something. I don't like it. That's kind of what Eagles plus 3.5 at home feels like to me. Or plus 3 at home feels like to me. Like, what? Like, what is this? I think we all expected Eagles -3, honestly.
This is one of those really tough ones, though, where it's a trap, but which way is it a trap? And usually, like, a trap is like, it. But at the same time, I think the public is more on the Niners this year than any other team.
Yeah, maybe the books are opening that because they like the public likes the Niners.
And when remember, we talked about this a couple weeks ago when the Niners were 5-0, the headlines of these, meme pages and social media outlets was like, give the championship to the Niners now, which is insane, by the way, to say about any team 5 weeks into the season ever in the history of football or any sport. Like, you never say stuff like that, right? And then, but my point with that is that the public believes the Niners are really, really good.
At least the betting public. Vegas has that data, right?
Yeah. So because of that, I think they think, all right, well, if we give the Niners 3 points, everybody's taking the Niners. And like Vegas never wants everybody. They want it split. They don't want everybody to take anything, right? They wanted to split down the middle on every single bet. So this is a tough one, but that's why I said this is the game of the week. Everybody wants to watch this game. I don't know is it Sunday night, this game?
I'm not sure.
I hope it's Sunday night.
Eagles Niners is
it's a 4:00 game. Yeah. It's whatever, but
they just got them sitting there. They got like the game of the freaking year sitting there in the 4:00 spot. Like, great job, NFL. Let's move off this one. Casey actually told me yesterday, he was like, I was ready to smash Niners, and it just never even occurred to me that the Eagles would get 3 points at home. Who knows? I don't know if you stayed out of it or if you got into it, Casey, but I feel like you feel a little cheated. You're like, wait, then how come the Niners don't get the media narrative then?
I'm not disagreeing with what Dap said at all, but conveniently you forgot the part 3 weeks later where they were 5-3 and everybody said, I don't even think they're a playoff team. So they've seen both sides of the coin. They're back to a 3-game winning streak. I think they're going to win this game.
That's also insane. Yeah, like both of those things after
both
5.
extremes.
Like, why can't you just not say either of those things and be a regular? Are you saying
sports media reporting is
usually we're typically very reasonable, level-headed takes in sports media. That's what we're well known for, I think, right? So all right, let's move on to the $40 round. Casey, you went first that time, so Daps, we're going to go to you first in the $40 round.
In my $40 spot, I went with the Dolphins minus 9.5 in Washington. I just think the Dolphins Tua didn't play great last week, but they're in rhythm. The Commanders have such a bad defense. It is so bad. And they also cannot protect their quarterback. So I just see this as a very, very high scoring game. I think the Commanders can definitely put up points, but if the Dolphins run away with it pretty early, I think they're going to air it out maybe to Tyreek and to Waddle early, and then they're going to run HN is coming back this week. That stud rookie running back is coming back. They got Mostert. They got Jeff Wilson. So I see them going up by a couple touchdowns and then running the ball. And maybe running the ball like for 200 or 300 yards too.
Yeah. Yep. Speaking of Dolphins at Commanders, Casey, what do you have in your $40 spot?
Yeah, I see it the same way, Daps. I bet on the Dolphins against the bad team last week. Didn't care what the spread was. I think that's the formula right now. If you're going to give me a top 5 team against, a bottom 10 team at least, right now, I don't care what the spread is that much. I feel pretty confident, especially if it's still single digits.
Especially a team like the Dolphins, who's not afraid to run it up. Like, they want to score 35 points.
I think they're going to go up by a couple touchdowns, like you said, Daps. And from that point on, we've seen them do lots of different stuff.
They hung 70 on the let's not forget they hung 70 on the Broncos.
They do all kinds of things. Yeah. So they will definitely run the Commanders out of Washington, their own town, and just take that as their own territory, I think, here.
That's $40 round. That might be the confidence bet. We'll see where we're at in the $50 round here, but that might be the smash bet of the week if you guys both have it in that $40 spot. Dolphins, who cares about the 9.5 points? Just go ahead and take them. The Commanders aren't very good. All right, Casey, you get the turn. $50 spot, money round. What you got?
My last bet of the week. I remember being close with the Dolphins game in the chart, and this game here. Oops,
yeah, you're
kind of leaked it a little there.
There you go.
I wasn't sure where to go. I'm glad we both had it at $40. That Dolphins game, Daps. Maybe we're different here. I'm picking another spread bet. Chargers on the road against the Pats. Pats still pretty much hot garbage all year long. Yep. I don't expect them to do very much. The Chargers, fully will admit, pretty disappointing season so far.
Yep.
They can still put up points, though, and they're not going to lose to a team like the Pats. I believe that. It's a matter of how much they win by. If I believe they're going to win, I'm not going to predict it's some nail-biter field goal at the end of the game, end of regulation, to go up by 1 and win. They should win by a touchdown. in my estimate. I don't even know how the Patriots are planning to score touchdowns, honestly, these days. If Ramondre doesn't
Bailey
get
Zappi,
into the
baby.
it seems like they're just toast. So,
Yeah.
the Chargers, they have a lot of weapons. They haven't really put it all together this year, but they're just too talented. They're going to win by a touchdown or more. Take the Chargers, giving up 6 points.
I don't know if you saw earlier this week, Rex Ryan fired some shots at Bill Belichick, said the only reason you were ever good was Tom Brady. And he's like, I called it then when that guy went to Tampa Bay, like you guys were never going to be good again. So maybe Belichick, not the best coach ever. Who knows? I'm not ready to say it. I'm just saying, I'm the messenger. I'm saying what other people are saying. I'll put it this way. I like that you said if the Chargers are going to win, it's not going to be some nail biter. I'll put it this way. If it is a nail biter, I bet they lose. They make the worst decisions out of any team in the league in like 1-score games on final drives. They're like, we should go for it on like 4th and 8 when we're up by, 3, right? Sure. Yeah. Like we should definitely do that. They're just not great decisions. So yeah, I think they definitely choke if it's close. So this is a good bet because I do think they'll win. And if they win, they're not going to win a close one. All right, Deps, what do you got in that $50 spot?
$50 spot. I liked Casey's assessment. I definitely checked that bet out. I just don't bet on the Chargers because they're so inconsistent.
They're very trapped.
They're just so bad. They're just so hard to watch. And it's unfortunate because they have such star power. I think
they're
that
so
coach,
good, but so bad. Like
coach should be fired in the middle of the season. Like that's how bad he is. He doesn't deserve to go through you give the respect to certain guys and fire them at the end of the season for the, in my opinion, they just fired the Panthers head coach. The Chargers with 4 wins are more disappointing than the Panthers with 1 win. And this coach is so bad. He is such a bad decision maker. And this has been going on for years. I watched the Chargers-Raiders game years ago where the Chargers, if they tied the game, they were going to the playoffs with the Raiders. And this guy Staley he's the worst. And Herbert on 4th and 10, like 3 times, brought him back. This guy didn't call a timeout. He's just an idiot. In my $50 spot, though,
he was the poster boy for making crazy decisions on 4th downs and stuff. I mean, he started that whole trend really in the modern.
Yeah. Well, why do we do it? Because of analytics. Well, okay, maybe just use a little judgment. I don't know.
It's just that doesn't hold up forever. It's a double-edged sword.
He's. I think he's the worst coach in the NFL. It's either him or the guy in.
Or Bill Belichick.
Either him or the guy in Chicago. Yeah. I'm going with maybe who's going to win the Coach of the Year this week. The Lions -4 in New Orleans, indoors, coming off a loss to the Packers on Thanksgiving, extra days of rest. The Saints have been wildly inconsistent this year. Derek Carr, super unimpressive. They do have a solid defense. They can definitely stay and hang around in games. But the Lions indoors, man, Goff has been bad the past 2 weeks. By the way, Goff beat the Bears on a pretty impressive end of game, but he threw, I think, 3 picks in that game, fumbled 3 times last week. And by the way, if the Bears had won, this is crazy to think about. If the Bears had beat the Lions 2 weeks ago, they would be 1 game out of the 7 seed in the NFC. 1 game out. And the Bears have been bad this year, right? So they're still only 2 games out. But I mean, it's not looking good for the Bears. But back to the Lions, -4. I think they bounce back. They win this game. And maybe rolling. You know what I mean? Maybe they run the ball well, they pass the ball well, and they're just clicking on all cylinders. But we'll see.
A mainstay has been Monty. David Montgomery's been good even in their loss. I think it's one of those things where if you think the Lions are good, if they've played good all season, if you've put eyes on them and you think, yeah, they're pretty good, it's a time to take advantage of the books and the public having a lower opinion of them, right? 2 weeks ago, Lions Saints would probably have a 7.5 point spread. Now it's 4 because they lost to a team they shouldn't have lost to last week. But that happens. It's in any given Sunday league, right? And so take advantage of that, of the books being a little bit low on them. I like this one for that reason. I'm also just an advocate of the NFC North, so a little bit biased there. But yeah, I like it. That wraps it up, boys. That is the round of betting. Obviously, don't all the things they say about gambling. If you don't bet money you don't have. This is not financial advice, but Casey and Apps both having some pretty good having a pretty good run this season so far. So I like all the bets. Let's move into our game. So I like to do stuff that is like typical player prop bets, kind of benchmark some player props for people. And we do it in a game format called Heat Check. If you've never been here before, you'll get it. It makes the game makes sense. The rules of the game make sense. But this week we are doing receptions. So just total volume of receptions. And we are doing it in the 2022-2023 season. So the season that happened last year, not the current season, just because that doesn't age well if somebody watches this like next week or something like that. So 2022-2023 season. Casey, you're 0-2 in Heat Check. So I will just give the decision to you. Do you want to go first? Or you want to go second?
Let's have Daps lead us off again.
Daps going to lead us off. Okay, Daps, are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. First question. Marquise, a.k.a. Marquise Hollywood Brown, had 67 total receptions last season. Did Keenan Allen have more or less than that?
I mean, the quick answer is like, obviously Keenan Allen has more receptions than Hollywood Brown, but I believe Keenan was hurt. So the question is, how many games was he hurt? And because of that, I'm going to have to go under.
Okay. So Hollywood Brown had 67 receptions last season. Dap said Keenan Allen had less than that. The answer is less. Keenan Allen had 66 receptions last season. I mean, that was obvious, Daps. I can't believe you were even waffling on that one. Clearly had massive one less than him. All right, Casey, that's to you now. So Keenan Allen, 66 receptions last season. Did the judge, Jerry Jeudy, have more or less?
Man, let's see. Jerry Jeudy.
I love this game.
Yeah.
Are you like, so you're like, I can't believe I got that question. I'm so glad I don't have this one.
Yeah, Jerry Jeudy. I think he also had some injuries last year, but I don't think he missed as much time as Keenan Allen, if I remember correctly. Maybe I don't even have the year right on Jerry Jeudy missing time. Last year, the infamous shit show for the Denver Broncos.
Yep.
They passed a lot, too.
They were always behind.
Game.
They were behind every game.
Nobody really emerged. I know that I had Cortland Sutton on a few fantasy rosters, and he was a pretty big flop. A few usable games, that was about it. And I remember coming into this year thinking Jerry Jeudy would be the main breakout. So I must have based that off of last season. He was one of the better ones on the team, at least. I think I'm going to follow the same thing. This is too low for Keenan. So I'm going to go with the over on this one as well.
Okay.
I think Keenan Allen just missed so much time. That's a low number.
Yeah. Keenan Allen had 66 receptions last season. The answer was, did Jerry Jeudy have more or less? Casey says more. Jerry Jeudy had 67 receptions last season.
Oh, by a mile then. The process was correct.
Casey, come on. Get with it. You guys both got maybe the hardest question that I put on in the game. So this is interesting. Casey putting the pressure on Daps to stay undefeated. Okay, Daps. Jerry Jeudy had 67 receptions last season. Did Juju Smith-Schuster have more or less?
Juju Smith-Schuster was on the Chiefs last year.
No.
And the number is, did Juju have 67?
More or less than 67.
Oh, man. 67 for Juju. 67 receptions.
There's a man on the Chiefs who eats up a lot of targets.
It's true.
I'm going under because Juju's so bad.
That's your justification. I don't even think he could have. He probably could. He couldn't catch the ball 67 times. There's no way.
He's so bad.
Okay, so lost my tab. Sorry. So we got Jerry Jeudy, the judge, 67 receptions last season. Did Juju Smith-Schuster have more or less? Dap says he had less. Juju Smith-Schuster had 78 receptions last season. It was actually
my.
kind of a career year for him. It was one of his better
No way
years.
it was a career year. He
I
had
mean,
a career year.
he had a
Second.
career year. His real career years were with the Steelers, but like if we take the last like last 4 or 5, like it was a bit of a revival year for him. Yeah, Juju.
I wonder now we're saying this, if like the Chiefs would be better this year, even if he was on the team, like, or he would be dropping balls too. You know what I mean? Like,
they just have another guy dropping balls probably.
Yeah, right. So,
I don't know. He caught him last season. Maybe there's something about the way Mahomes, puts the juice on it.
What's the number we're at? What was the number for that?
78. Okay, Casey. Juju Smith-Schuster had 78 receptions.
Jerry Judy, I know that one.
I
can get that right.
He had 78 receptions last season. Did DK Metcalf have more or less than that?
DK. I mean, my brain automatically thinks.
You're like,
more.
Is this a trick question?
Did he miss significant time? I mean, I don't think he did. This has got to be smash higher. I'm not going to overthink this.
Not going to overthink it. Not going to overthink it. Not going to try to play the game maker. Just going to try and play the game. I respect it. Juju Smith-Schuster had 78 receptions last season. Casey says DK Metcalf had more. DK Metcalf had 90 receptions last season. Quite a few more.
Okay.
That was supposed to be the easy round for both of you. So Daps, you are working from behind now, buddy. Juju's kind of a trap one because he's so bad, but like he actually did catch a bunch of balls last year.
Anybody who jumps around teams, it's going to be hard too.
Yep. All right. So DK Metcalf, Daps, had 90 receptions last season. Did Christian McCaffrey have more or less?
I thought you were going to hit him with his teammate, Tyler Lockett.
Tyler Lockett's another good one, but I passed on that.
I don't know the answer to that, honestly. It seems really close.
I'm going to go with Christian McCaffrey had less than 90.
Okay. DK Metcalf had 90 receptions last season. Dap says Christian McCaffrey had less. Christian McCaffrey had 85 receptions last season. He had, I'll tell you this. He had a lot of receptions. There's not a lot of non-receivers in the area he's in. He got a lot of balls. So you were right. Less is the answer. Casey, to you now. Your guy, Christian McCaffrey, had 85 receptions last season. Did Brandon Ayuk have more or less than that?
Brandon
Ayuk.
Niners questions to Casey. Is that even legal?
I know. Well, I figured. Here was my logic. I'm like, he's just gonna pick CMC because he doesn't want to be wrong on CMC. So I'm gonna give him another Niner, and I knew he'd make you go first.
Man, I mean, Brandon Ayuk has been stealthily like rising up through the ranks and receivers. People haven't really noticed it until this year, where he's pretty undeniably.
That is a correct assessment of Brandon Ayuk.
But CMC, man, I mean, he was a target hog. He was basically the whole offense after he showed up. I'll put it like this. I feel pretty confident after CMC shows up, he probably had more receptions than Ayuk. But I
you have to think about his Panthers weeks.
Exactly. I didn't care at all.
You weren't watching the Panthers? You weren't watching the Panthers last year?
I had about 0 first picks in my fantasy draft, so I didn't need to watch like Christian McCaffrey box scores all that much, and there wasn't really anybody else on the Panthers to really pay attention to either. So I'm not going to overthink this one either. I'm going to go with the star power, a nod to my guy Ayuk, but honestly, he shouldn't be getting more targets. His targets should be more valuable downfield targets for sure. But CMC should get the ball pretty often, even though he's getting a ton of rushing attempts. I got to go with CMC. I don't want to be wrong about CMC. You're right. So I'm going to go with him.
Yep. Okay. Casey said, or Christian McCaffrey had 85 receptions last season. Casey says Brandon Ayuk, an actual receiver on the same team, had fewer targets or fewer receptions. Brandon Ayuk had 78 receptions last season. You got it right, Casey. So through 3 rounds, Casey's perfect. He's 3 of 3. This is Casey's ball to fumble right now because Daps is 2 of 3. So you could tie him up right here, and then he would be forced to get the last question right. What was your question, Casey?
Was that 80 to 78? Is that what that
85
was?
85 to 78.
85. Okay.
All right, Daps. To you. Last round. Brandon Ayuk had 78 receptions last season. Did the sun god Amon-Ra St. Brown have more or less?
Amon-Ra had more.
Brandon Ayuk had 78 receptions last season. Dab says Amon-Ra St. Brown had more. Amon-Ra St. Brown had 106 receptions last season. Dude was a target hog. Yeah, you got it. So Casey, this is on you now. The
Pressure's on, baby.
The score is
Pressure's
3-3. It's a tie score with Casey. Casey gets a chance for a buzzer beater right here. The Sun God Amon-Ra St. Brown had 106 receptions last season. Did Jamar Chase have more or less than that?
Okay.
Daps's reaction is like, whoa.
Yeah. Quick thoughts.
This game is awesome because like you go from Juju and then like Jamar Chase, which are so different, you know?
Yeah.
Okay. So thinking out loud here, no significant injuries that I can think of. I seem to recall Jamar might have missed a game or two. I know he's had some stuff. Maybe Amon-Ra did too. I don't know. Nobody was watching the line. I mean, I wasn't watching the lines as closely until they started looking pretty good. But I'm going to say the injury is about a wash. ASB, though, feels like way more of a target all over the field, where Jamar Chase, sure, he gets a lot of targets, but they really like using him as that deep guy. They got the Tyler Boyd receptions underneath. They got T. Higgins working in there, pretty big factor last year at least. This year, who knows? So I'm feeling like even though
Casey's trying to convince himself that Jamar Chase isn't like a major target.
No, he obviously is, but there's more targets on that team. And I think he probably ended up with better numbers on the season, but I think he can do a lot more with less. And I think ASB is about the only – you just throw the ball to him on that team.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with ASB with more catches. So
okay.
Fewer for Chase.
Fewer for Chase. All right. So Amon-Ra St. Brown had 106 receptions last season. Casey says Jamar Chase had less.
Wait, Chase. Jeff, are you happy I guess that? Or
I don't know. I really don't know the answer.
He's like, I don't know how would I answer that question. Jamar Chase had 87 receptions last season, which meant Casey went a perfect 4 for 4, while Daps went 3 for 4. However, there are 2 bonus round questions. So if we make them both worth a point, Daps could salvage this.
Okay. Trying to steal my only win of the year from, but all right.
Yeah, well, that's your fault for getting wiped out so bad in the other ones. You couldn't come back with the bonus rounds.
What makes these bonus questions? I want to know. Why are they not just rounds 5 and 6?
Because they're not the same game. So go ahead.
Okay.
What's really interesting to me is that Jamar Chase was like 2nd overall, 3rd overall pick this year in fantasy. So that just means that he must have had a lot of touchdowns last year because those receptions do add up to points.
We're talking about receptions, not yards. I think Jamar Chase is a big yards guy.
Oh, yeah, for sure. But still, 20 receptions less than Amon-Ra, like that's a lot. 20, Yeah.
I put it this way. Amon-Ra, if you look at the list of receiving receptions leaders last year, a lot of it's not surprising. Amon-Ra is incredibly surprising. Like in some ways you're like, no, he's not. He's like the only target. But it's like, yeah, if you look at the company he's around at 106, it's surprising.
He's more of a possession guy, though. Jamar Chase isn't that good.
All right.
He just does a lot with all of this.
Tiebreaker round here. First round of the tiebreaker. Chance for Daps to tie it up and send it into double overtime. Or overtime, I guess.
Overtime operator?
Hey, I see what you did there.
Hey.
All right. So you guys are going to write it down. I'm going to give you a couple seconds. Who had the most receptions last season? Write down the name of a player, any player. You could write down any name, I guess. You could write down the name of a buddy. You could be like Bill Simmons. Nope, that's a person. That's like a person in the media. It just came to my brain. My buddy Jeff, he had the most last season. I would suggest a player who's a receiver. That's probably the best bet. Who to write down.
Is that a real hint or is that a fake out hint?
I mean, dude, I think I can just make it obvious here that Christian McCaffrey had way more receptions than any other non-receiver. Like
that's not true.
He's the only one even up there, I think.
No way. You're forgetting about another position group altogether.
Okay, yeah, I'm including tight ends and receivers.
Okay.
Tight end is a receiver, man. In today's NFL, come on. Tight end's like 30% offensive lineman.
Not gonna lie, I was leaning there until you threw me off with the receiver comment. Now I'm like,
I would suggest a tight end or a receiver. Let me put it that way.
okay. Well, no matter what, I'm blaming you if I lose on this now. But man, because two names popped into mind immediately.
There's really three. There's really three that it's one of these guys.
All right, I'm gonna go with who
and
I would have picked anyway before your pseudo fake out hint.
Now that you have it written down already, I'll even go so far to say is like there's actually really only two.
Two names came to mind.
Yes, first. Yeah, and I'm assuming you guys have the both. So if you guys both get it on this one, then we're gonna send it into double overtime. If Dabs gets it and you don't, then we're still gonna send it into double overtime. All right, hold it up, boys.
I pivoted. I'm not gonna lie, I got scared.
We got Casey saying Justin Jefferson. What did you say, Daps? I can't quite read it.
Same thing.
Justin Jefferson. The answer is
I crossed out Travis Kelce.
So Travis Kelce was third. That was a good choice. Tyreek Hill was second. Justin Jefferson was first. You guys both got it, which means we're going to double overtime. I guess that technically means that best case scenario, Daps can tie it. But the double overtime question is, how many receptions did Justin Jefferson have? Go ahead and write it down on your paper.
How many did he have?
How many? We know that he had the most, and we know what numbers have been said in this game if we have good memories. So we know it's higher than the highest number that's been said in this game. So don't say a number lower than that, because then you'll look stupid. I'm not here to make anybody look stupid. I actually think you guys both came out pretty smart in this game. It was 3-4. Well, somebody only missed one question. All right. You guys got it? Got it written? Is it written, Casey? All right. Hold it up. Casey said, what? No! Okay, well, I guess you guys tie, which means Casey wins. You guys both put 123.
I crossed out 122 that time.
Okay, first off, no more crossing out. Casey, whatever you wrote down first from now on, that counts. If he crosses it out, it's the first one.
Since you told me you crossed out 122 and a half, this is on you. You told me you crossed out 122 and a half. You're 122. So your official guess is 122 and a half, which means Daps wins and you guys thought, no, I'm just kidding. Casey wins. It was 128. So you guys were both under by 5.
Ooh.
So if you would have put 122, that would have been really if you guys tied.
Un-Casey of you.
Yeah, that would be a real bummer if you guys tied at the end of all this. So I'm glad Casey got a win. Now it's now it's 2-1. It's closer.
That wasn't even like football knowledge that maybe I went. 1, 2, 3 is just so much more satisfying to write.
Then
I wrote
1, 2, 2.
I was like, that feels weird. I don't know.
Yeah.
I like 1, 2, 3 better.
You guys were both close. Justin Jefferson had 128. Tyreek Hill had 119. Travis Kelce had 110. And then that's Travis Kelce's kind of just leading the chase pack. You got like Stephon Diggs with 108, Austin Eckler with 107. That's, I guess, Eckler. That's who I wasn't thinking about.
TK would be closer, honestly.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's kind of like, I looked at it and I'm like, there's really only two guys. It's JJ and Tyreek. And honestly, JJ even is a little bit of a runaway on Tyreek.
I can't believe we put the same number.
That's crazy. There's so many numbers in that were fathomable. Like really anything between 110 and probably 135 is fathomable. And you guys chose the same number.
I think that's more than usual too. I had to reset my brain. That's why I switched to JJ too.
My brain went 1-8. My brain went 119, and then it went, no, it's got to be more than that because 106 for Amon-Ra. And then I was like 127, and I was like, oh, that's high.
Yeah. So
and I was like, Jordan number 123.
So let me. So I was trying to tell you, Amon-Ra, he's in company that you're surprised by. So Austin Eckler at 107 is 5th. CeeDee Lamb tied for 5th at 107. Then Amon-Ra St. Brown at 106. Chris Godwin, Devontae Adams, Michael Pittman Jr.
Eckler had
Amon-Ra is in some company that not very many people would mention him in terms of receptions volume. That is a stat that favors him. I'll put it that way.
I think that's where he belongs, though, mostly.
In that stat, probably not in who's the best receiver conversation, but that's a stat that favors him, I would say.
It does. Yeah. He's a possession guy.
Imagine losing this on Juju Smith-Schuster.
Yeah, that's what you did. That's what
Imagine
you did.
having to answer any type of trivia about Juju Smith-Schuster.
You're like, Juju's so bad. I can't say it. Turns out he had 78 catches.
I just want to know if Casey would have got that right.
I don't even remember. Did you guess under on that one?
He guessed under Jerry Jeudy.
For Juju?
Yeah. I mean, you have the hindsight bias now, but
yeah, I don't know. That one's gross. It's real gross.
Yeah. It's not like Jerry Judy's particularly good, you know? Like
No.
Well, I mean, it's not like Juju's particularly good either. So yeah, it's real nasty. He didn't get re-signed by the Chiefs, so
Juju actually had like a good year for this stat. So he's around. So other guys are 78. Brandon Ayuk is 78. Amari Cooper, Mike Evans is right underneath Juju at 77. Cooper Kupp right underneath that at 75. Like Juju kind of had. He's a little bit high, honestly, in this stat. The stat favored him that year particularly. So
that's the other thing about the ASB thing being higher than you would think. There was a lot of receivers who missed time last year. I remember that being kind of outsized last year. The Keenan Allen,
Cooper Kupp is an example. Yep.
Yeah, I mean those are guys who were flying past him in catches in particular. So
yep. I just said all the stuff. It's Overtime Operators. We talk about making money in sports. If you're on YouTube, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell icon so that you get notified when we are when we post new episodes. If you're listening on audio, follow us so that you get notified on your podcast app every time we have new episodes. If you haven't yet, subscribe to the newsletter. It's linked up in the description or show notes of wherever you're watching or listening. We send that out on Thursdays, so it's sort of like the last thing that goes out every week. Like, hey, here's like the adjusted odds. Sometimes the show gets posted and we have one spread and then the spread moves a little bit by Thursday. So we get that last stuff in, and then we usually try and update like, look, I liked it when I said it on the show, but at this spread, I don't like it. Usually that doesn't happen, but Thursday newsletter, sort of the last sort of line of defense. And that's the pod.